This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
And welcome in, folks, to another edition of Open Mic Night. I am your host, Noah Taluki, and on today's episode, I said it a couple weeks ago, I had a special announcement to make. I'm going to make it right now and talk to you a little bit about what I've been doing what I'm going to be doing this summer as well. Also, a little bit about my experience last week. I went to the Memorial Golf Tournament over in Columbus. And what a great event that was. Of course, one of the top PGA non-major events on the tour. I'll talk about that. And a big thing that's really come up that I'm going to talk about later as well is this new Saudi league, this LIV tour that's going on in Saudi, backed by the Saudi Arabian government. A lot of PGA guys are starting to flee the PGA and going to the new Saudi league. So I'm going to talk about that. It's a little bit of a break from Detroit sports this week because the Tigers, I could talk about the Tigers, but I don't really want to talk about them right now. And who wants to hear about minicamp stories with the Lions? And, of course, the offseason for the Pistons and the Red Wings. So I'm going to back off a little bit from Detroit sports. We're going to go a little bit into this golf because it's a big story, and I think it definitely is worth mentioning, especially in Michigan where golf continues to grow in this state as well. But hopefully everybody had a great last 2 weeks. I'm sorry I could not record last week. I got a little bit busy with, and I'll just reveal it now, my special announcement. So back in February, I was actually able to get an internship with the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which is right here, which is in Canton, Ohio. So I'm actually living in Canton for the summer, about an hour south of Cleveland. And I'm one of 16 interns. The interns are from around the country. There's people from California, Texas, Florida, Wisconsin, New York. I mean, they're from all over the country, literally, that I'm going to be working with this summer. And it's been a real blast. And, this is sort of like a dream come true for me to get an internship like this. I've worked in minor league baseball the last few years. I was fortunate enough to get an internship with John Macaroon and company at the Detroit Sports Podcast Network 2 years ago, and I'm still doing the podcast and editing, podcasts like the Fan Report and Michigan Podcast and all of those podcasts. And, I really enjoy doing that as well. But this is something that I've really looked forward to for a long time. And, for someone that grew up like me, grew up loving football history, I mean, absolutely having a passion for it. I remember watching the old NFL Network TV shows, NFL Top 10, A Football Life. I mean, those were shows that growing up, I really gravitated towards. And there were speakers on the NFL Top 10 shows that were that work at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, like Joe Horrigan. If anyone knows about football history out there, you definitely have to know Joe Horrigan. And my boss, John Kendall. So I'm in the archives department under John Kendall. And the archives department at the Hall of Fame is very, very unique because it basically houses millions and millions and millions of artifacts that deal with the history of pro football. So, the other day I saw Tom Brady's draft card, the cards that they give the commissioner when they announce the draft picks. And that was Tom Brady's draft card that a lot of people have seen on those documentaries. I've seen Don Shula's very own notebooks, and we've talked about Don Shula on the podcast before. We know he's a John Carroll grad, and we've talked to Ben, his nephew, my good friend. Talked to Richmond Webb. We talked to Dave Shula, all those people associated with him. That was really cool to see, all those notebooks of Coach Shula's, and the legacy that he has at the Pro Football Hall of Fame as well. I've seen jerseys. I've seen footballs. I've seen a lot of things that, old papers from the 1920s that have to do with the barnstorming Chicago Bears with Red Grange. I mean, there's just so many, so unique items in the archives at the Hall of Fame. And I'm very fortunate and blessed to be able to have this internship opportunity with John Kendall, who's been there for 17 years, and the Vice President of Archives and Information at the Hall of Fame. And he's been tremendous to work with. And I just feel like I'm learning something new every day and just meeting so many wonderful people there. Everyone has a passion for what they do at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And if anyone is looking to do something this summer away from Detroit, I would definitely recommend coming to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It is definitely worth it, especially for football fans, people that are diehards. This is the place for you. Really about football history and then getting into the modern age as well. I'm promoting it. I'm promoting anyone who wants to come down to the Hall of Fame this summer. Definitely, it's worth it. and part of my other tasks, I'm going to be working with some of the some of the current class members and looking up information about them and doing a little bit of research with that. And, I'll be working the enshrinement ceremony and at the Hall of Fame game, which will take place in early August, in Canton. So, and the game this year is Jaguars versus Raiders. That officially kicks off the preseason, like it does every year, the Hall of Fame game at Tom Benson Stadium, which is right next door to the Hall of Fame as well. Another cool thing about the Hall of Fame is, actually, just the other day, Anthony Munoz, a fellow Hall of Famer, he actually started, he has a job now at the Hall of Fame. He's kind of like an ambassador for the Hall of Fame, an assistant to the president, Jim Porter, who took over for David Baker. If everyone knows about David Baker, the famous knock that he would do 400 pounds, he is, so he was Jim Porter was the man who replaced David Baker. So Jim Porter's been working a lot with Anthony Munoz, and I was able to meet Anthony. And he's just a very wonderful human being, and it was really, really cool to meet him, and especially a fellow Hall of Famer. Anytime a Hall of Famer can come in, and work for the Hall of Fame, how great that is. So having him around and talking with, I asked him a lot of questions, and he knew like a couple of the ex-Lions, like Lomas Brown, who we've had on the podcast before. So that was really special to have that experience, and more and more people from the NFL will be coming in to look at the Hall of Fame and all that. So it's it's something that's I'm really looking forward to, and the Cleveland Browns, the whole team's coming next week, so that'll be cool. And some of the stuff I've researched even too has been quite good, and it's interesting because I have an office right in the reading room of the hall of the archives, and in the reading room is old media guides for every single team dating back to 1940, for the older teams. And I was able to look at some of those Lions media guides, and I saw the 1957 one, and it made me threw me back to when the Lions last won a championship. So hopefully Dan Campbell and company can get an actual Super Bowl. But just seeing some of that history, though, and like I said, it's just something I'm very passionate about. It's something that I may want to go into one day. The public relations route, or the Hall of Fame, or like sort of like the archives route. So so far it's been a great experience with the 15 other interns from around the country. Really get to know them as well. We've been doing a lot of fun things together as well. So, just a little update about myself, and I do that through August 10th. So, really looking forward to this summer before my last year at John Carroll. So, it's been going well, and I'm very blessed and thankful to have this opportunity with the Hall of Fame as well. All right, we're going to talk about golf now, and we don't talk about golf a whole lot on the show. The only time we bring golf up is during the Rocket Mortgage Classic. We'll do a little bit of a preview here and there. But honestly, I was thinking about this the other day. Golf's probably my third favorite sport to watch, because football is king. Football is number one. I'll watch pro football. I mean, I'm a big pro football fan, but I'll watch a little bit. I'll watch some college, and then obviously the MLB, the Tigers, number two. And then I don't watch a lot of NBA or NHL or soccer, and I don't watch that at all. So, the PGA is probably the third, my third favorite sport to watch. And now look, I'm not going to pretend to you that I know every single one of these PGA guys and I know everything about them. Now, I know of a lot of the guys, like I know of names, because they've played at the Rocket Mortgage Classic every year. That name sounds familiar, it rings a bell. So that's what it was kind of like for me at the Memorial. Shout out to my friend Clayton, by the way, who was able to actually get me some tickets. I was able to go to the practice round at the Memorial on Tuesday in Columbus, and then I went to the final round on Sunday. The practice rounds are cool, and if anyone is looking to go to PGA events and is looking to have some interaction with the golfers, more autograph sessions, that kind of thing, go on the practice round days. The golfers are a lot more relaxed. They're willing to sign and take pictures with fans, in between holes, so that when they're walking from the green to the tee box, and they're very interactive with the fans. And it's just fun to go out. There's not as many people, and I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed walking around the course, and I'll tell you this: the Memorial is very different than Rocket Mortgage Classic because Rocket Mortgage, obviously it's a newer tournament. The course, DGC is absolutely beautiful, and I've played it. I played it 2 years ago and all that. But the DGC is flat. There's more narrow fairways. There's not as many houses on the course as there is at Muirfield Village, which is where the Memorial was played. It's just different, newer tournament, like I said. Whereas the Memorial is Jack Nicklaus's tournament. So, of course, the Golden Bear, in my opinion, the greatest golfer of all time. Yes, better than Tiger Woods. So, you get a little more prestige with that tournament. And the houses on Muirfield Village, absolutely beautiful. It's very hilly, wide fairways. So, you definitely get your steps in over there when you're walking as a spectator. But, like I said, it's very different than Rocket Mortgage. But, I was very, I was really happy I was able to go. And, I got some interaction with the golfers, was able to take some pictures. Even some of the big names were signing, like Rory McIlroy, Jordan Spieth, Bryson DeChambeau. Those guys were signing. It was a lot of fun for that. And then also, I was able to go on the final round. The final round, I never been to a final round with the Rocket Mortgage or anything, but that was cool because there was a lot of people there. A lot of people cheering those golfers on. A lot of people that stayed after for the trophy ceremony. The trophy ceremony is very unique. I got about a foot away from Jack Nicklaus as he was walking up right next to the trophy, which was really cool. And then Billy Horschel ended up winning the tournament. So congratulations to Billy. And, his family embraced him. It was the first time his family had ever, he said it in his speech, it was the first time his family had ever been to one of his tournaments where he won. And he's been pro since 2009. So that was a really nice moment. And they had a bunch of the officials of the tournament in sport coats and all that around the green. They did it on the 18th green over at Muirfield Village. So, it just made it for a really, really nice event. And, I was really fortunate to go. Never experienced the final round, especially for a tournament that is one of the best on the PGA Tour for a non-major. So that was quite fun. And, a little tune-up for the U.S. Open, which is already going to be next week over at Torrey Pines. They're back over in San Diego. So that should be a fun tournament, of course. But like I said, I don't pay attention to the PGA. I'm not like a religious fan of the PGA, by any sense. But I do pay attention a little. I'm more of like a casual fan. I know of these guys. I usually check the leaderboard at least once or twice per tournament just to see where guys are, who's winning, and who's placing well and who's in the FedEx Cup and all that. But and this brings me to my other point I was going to make during this podcast about this new golf league. So they call it LIV Golf. And, of course, the LIV stands for LIV, which is if anyone knows, Super Bowl terms with the Roman numerals, LIV is 54. So I was reading up about this. They call it LIV Golf 54 because if you birdied every hole, that would be your score. On a par 72, if you birdied every hole, your score would be a 54. So, basically it seems like they're promoting birdies here with this LIV Golf. So a lot of PGA players, notable PGA players, some, it seems to be more of a international, some more international players are starting to go over, but basically this LIV Golf is a new golf league that is funded by the Saudi Arabian government. And they're playing courses all around the world. They've already recruited. Greg Norman is the CEO of this. He's kind of like the president, and which I think part of the reason LIV Golf has had some, big name golfers is because of Greg Norman. At least there's some legitimacy to this. So right now, LIV Golf announced March 15th that it's an eight tournament, so 8 tournaments that are going to be played. $255 million. I mean, the pot is bigger than what the PGA is selling right now, for some of its tournaments. And the first tournament is at the Centurion Club, which is in London, just before the start of the U.S. Open. And each event is only 3 rounds. So typically PGA is 4 rounds. So this is 3 rounds, 54 holes as well, which also could be, what LIV means as well. 54 birdie, if you birdie every hole, 54 holes that you play, per tournament. There's the other thing too about this new league is that there's no cuts. So, obviously in PGA events, if it's a 4-day tournament, there's a certain score you have to make in order to make the cut. If you don't make the cut, then you don't play on Saturday or Sunday of the tournament. You go home. So there's no cuts. So everyone is guaranteed a slice of the pie, basically, even if you don't win the tournament. Now that's the case in the PGA as well. You still get a sum of the money. Now, for example, the Memorial on this past weekend in Columbus, the purse was $12 million. The winner doesn't get all $12 million. It is split. Now the winner gets most of the money, but it's split among, can't remember what the top is, but you don't have to win the tournament to win all of the money. Basically, what this means is, since there's no cuts, everyone gets a share of the money. So even if you enter a tournament, you're guaranteed to have money. Whereas the PGA events, you're not guaranteed because you're not guaranteed to make the cut. So, they're playing all over the world. Like I said, they're starting in London. They're going to Portland, Oregon. They're going to the Trump National Golf Club in New Jersey. Then they're going to Boston, Chicago. They're going to Bangkok. They're going to Jeddah as well. I mean, they're all over the world. Royal Greens Golf Club. So, and each event is going to have a $25 million purse, $20 million for individual prizes, $5 million for the team competition. There's a little bit of that as well. So, some of the big golfers that have went are, Dustin Johnson's a big one. There's starting to become a little bit more American guys like Kevin Na, Dustin Johnson that have come over, but really it was started by Sergio Garcia, Louis Oosthuizen, among other, big name, European golfers. Charlie Schwartzel was another one. Brendan Grace. So it's interesting. Ian Poulter, another one from England that's in this. Lee Westwood. And of course Phil Mickelson. He already has, deferred from the PGA and is going to be playing in this. Now, why it's causing a stir is because a lot of big name golfers outside of the PGA are starting to, basically resign from the PGA and go over to this new league, and a lot of it has to do with money. Because you're making more money on the LIV Tour than you would be with the PGA. And, a lot of people think the PGA has a big problem on its hand because of all these golfers going, which they do in a sense, but I don't know. I just honestly don't see this being like a huge problem in the future. I really think that these guys are going to end up coming back, because I think a lot of these guys, what they're doing is they're just testing the waters. They want to see what happens. They want to see what it's like, because the PGA has not officially. Now, I know they've threatened to ban people from the PGA if they enter a league like this, but there hasn't been anything official yet that has said, okay, you are definitely banned, for life or whatever from the league if you enter this LIV Golf. There's nothing official. The PGA still doesn't know enough about it, I think, to really hamper down. So I honestly think some of these golfers are just going overseas just to see what this league is about, see if it's legit, and then, maybe make some, obviously make some cash on the side because everyone's guaranteed cash. And then if it's not for them, they just come back. I really think that's the mindset of some of these golfers right now. I don't think this is like some permanent thing. That's why I don't think it's going to be a big, and I think it's just going to fade away really fast. I really don't see this as a long-term problem. I mean, we'll see what the PGA says. If the PGA says, you're going to be banned for life or whatever if you don't, or banned from majors or whatever if you play in the LIV Golf, then I think some guys are going to say, no, I want to be part of this PGA, because the PGA is the top league in the world, better than the European Tour, Asian Tour, Canadian Tour, Korn Ferry, all that. It's the best tour in the world. And when you have this new league coming in, this LIV Golf, and on top of that, backed by the Saudi government, who is already corrupt in the first place. They've, human trafficking, like there's all kinds of, shady things that are going on with this Saudi Arabian, deal that's been being made to promote this league. I think a big I think a big part of it is money. And if the money wasn't there, then they wouldn't be going. Now, you think about, and look, I'm comparing this to other leagues. You think about the old AFL. Actually, I'd take that back. You think of the old USFL, in the 1980s. You look at other leagues as well. These startup leagues, they don't last long. You look at the XFL, the original XFL, that didn't last. Well, the second XFL, not really either. These upstart leagues rarely ever last because the money runs dry. Now, I think the Saudi government seems to be a little bit more stable with money than some of these other owners were, with football teams. But, I don't know if the money will necessarily run dry. I just think I think some of these golfers just might get tired of it and just, it might just be a fad. Just says, hey, I just want to go check it out, see what happens. If not, if it doesn't work out, then go back. But I think these guys will quickly, they'll come back to the PGA Tour, especially if they, especially it depends on what the PGA is going to do about it and what their official ramifications will be. Now, I know Tiger Woods already has pledged his loyalty to the PGA Tour. So basically, he says, I'm staying on the tour. His legacy is on the tour. Basically, it's like, are you going to tarnish your legacy just to make a couple extra $1 million? A lot of these guys too, especially the big name guys, they already have sponsorship deals. So it's not like these guys are making no money in the PGA. They already have their sponsorships. That's why I think they're just trying to see what this league is all about, especially with Greg Norman as the CEO. It's got a little bit of legitimacy. So, and Tiger has already said, Rory McIlroy has also said that he will be staying in the PGA Tour. So there's other big name golfers that are saying, no, I don't want anything to do with this new LIV Golf League. But I definitely think it's interesting to bring up just because of how much talk it's gotten about. Honestly, you could probably say it's one of the biggest stories in all of sports right now, because all I keep hearing is about this new league. And like I said, I don't think it's going to last that long. I think a lot of these guys will come back, but it really depends on what the PGA is going to do. If the PGA doesn't do anything about it, you might see guys go. You might see more guys go. If they want to say, look, you're going to be banned, for life, then I think some, from then on out, you're going to be banned. I think some guys might, they might come back. So, so these guys will not be partaking in the U.S. Open, which is a shame. But, they also have complaints about the PGA, and I don't really want to get into all that. But like I said, the PGA is the number one sport in the world. I don't know why they're complaining about making more money, especially these big names, because they already make millions in endorsements. You've already won many events on the PGA Tour. How much more money do you need? I don't know. I'm just an outsider looking in, but that's what I think of it. Why would you put your legacy at risk to join some upstart league backed by a corrupt Saudi government when your legacy in the PGA Tour, you're trying to win more tournaments, trying to get more majors? I don't know. It's very complicated, but I hope the PGA does something about it, at least just to kind of silence it and get LIV Golf off our minds. But definitely a big story that I thought definitely needed to be talked about. That's for sure. Make sure to tune into the other podcasts on the podcast network, the Michigan podcast, Fan Report, the Doc and Jock podcast, the Wrestling podcast, all very good podcasts to listen to. And don't forget about John Macaron's fantastic coverage that he does with Sports Illustrated Lions. I mean, he's got all the mini camps covered, OTAs. He's starting training camp just before you know it in late July. So year 2 of the Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes era. And really looking forward to covering that. And also really looking forward to my 100th episode, which is going to be in a couple weeks. So it'll be episode number 100 here on the podcast network. And I'll tell you what, I've loved every single one of them. I love talking Detroit sports with you guys. I love when I have time, I love getting interviews with former Lions, former coaches as well. You have Dave Shula, I still think that's one of my best interviews I've ever done. And, Lomas Brown was another great one. A lot of people, they just really want to share their story. And that's the one thing I really like about this podcast is that, it gives me a platform to, interview these people and, making sure that we hear their side of the story. And, and just really about their journey. And that's why I love getting coaches and players on, guys who've lived through the battles. So, it's been really, really awesome. And, this is number 95. So we got to go 5 more weeks till number 100 and, cannot wait for that. That is for sure. Thanks again, folks, for tuning in, and make sure to tune in next week only on Open Mic Night.